last video that I do for the day, but I want to just I didn't want to leave you hanging on the gravity side of things, so I want to explain what I meant by that. One of the first things that I did when I started experimenting with the fine structure constant was I plotted it as an angle. And you can see down here on the right, when you plot it as an angle and then you figure out the gap, the space between the top left corner of the box to the fine structure constant and where they intersect, and you use that as a unit, you get basically 29 by 29, um, which comes to 841 for an area. And when you divide that by S of B from the synergy, or from the SyPI equation rather, S of B being the base constant, you have the base and the limit, which give you that rough radian. So the synergy base constant 126, which is also the first and only octaquadrian that's a synergy constant. When you use that to divide 841, you get the value of gravity, not in newtons, of course, but you get the same, almost the same precise number. So just to connect the dots, we've got pi, the fine structure constant, the golden ratio, and gravity all coming from the same place. You know, the synergy constant being, I guess the facilitator of that, right? So we've got 162, 126, 2.162. These numbers, this is why I call it the synergy constant, is because these numbers seem to have an awful lot of work on their hands, to put it lightly. It's just really interesting. So, we've got all these different things going on, and they're all lining up so perfectly with what we're finding in physics and quantum mechanics. Now, I'm not a complete expert on quantum mechanics. I spent a lot of time over the last 5-6 years researching physics and quantum mechanics, and while I feel I do have a solid grasp on a lot of it, I'm limited, and I don't necessarily understand everything as a whole. What I do understand is, or what at least what I'm really starting to understand, is how this equation works, and it's how these interesting connections that are happening. The explanation of dark energy. I mean, if dark energy isn't real and this is tied to that, I mean, this really does provide a logical explanation for what's going on if there isn't any dark energy. So there's definitely some, with this acceleration and deceleration that we're looking at right now. It's there's clearly something going on here with all these constants that we're finding and all this behavior that seems to align with what we're finding in physics and quantum mechanics and measurement. Um, you know, it's just really intriguing, and I felt like I needed to finish that off and let you guys know about the gravity side of things. I think everything scales. I know that this isn't in newtons, and that some of the units don't line up, but I think it's a scaling problem. I think what we're seeing is just a natural inherent behavior in number, and there's a scaling process behind that as well, and as well as a descaling, I guess you would call it, because you have this acceleration and deceleration. And I would assume that, like the slope of the gradient, you're going to have kind of it's not just going to be a constant. Like all these constants that we use, like pi, I mean, we set them as static values. Maybe they're not completely static values, they're ranges of values, they're all gradients, and that might make more sense to a lot of our measurements. So we'll leave it at that. Again, I keep saying it. Don't take my word for it. Try it yourself. I've posted all the work that I'm doing is available online for anybody to try. And yeah, I hope you find it as interesting as I do. Thank you.